Welcome you to the Sunday service for April the 26th. And the subject of our sermon today is Ordered Steps. It's taken from Psalms, the 119th division, standards 133 through 36. And Matthew 14 through 28. Order my steps in your word. Send your anointing, Father, I pray. Order my steps in your word. Psalms 119, 133 reads, Order my steps in thy word, and let not any iniquity have dominion over me. Deliver me from oppression, the oppression of man, so I will keep thy precepts. Make thy face to shine upon thy servant, and teach me thy statutes. Rivers of waters run down my eyes, because they have not kept your law. In the 119th division of Psalms, verse 133, we find David's prayer. David lifts up his voice to God and says, Order my steps in your word, and let not my iniquity have dominion over me. And then when he goes over to Matthew, the 14th chapter, Matthew 28 says, Peter asked Jesus to bid me to come to you, Jesus, on the water. In other words, order me, Jesus, to come out of the water to you. I had several titles that popped up in this text for these words that might fit your case. Walking in ordered steps, and ordered steps get failing in faith. Because we do have ordered steps, and sometimes we fail in our faith to God. But here in the 119th division, we find that this division is truly unlike any other in all of the 150 divisions. There appears to be a collection of sporadic prayers and utterance requests that are being made to God. This division is long, and it calls us to evaluate the conditions of our soul. It tells me that we need to have conversation with God so that we may engage God in our daily lives. Now, as I understand the situation, God's people need to be persons who live in communion with Him. My Bible tells me that David was also a man acquainted with failing. So as human beings, we are going to fail sometime in our lives. David knew that no matter how hard he tried, he could stumble and fall at any time. You see, it doesn't matter how close we think we are to God. Failing could only be just one step away, one moment away, if we don't pray the devil away. Now, I'm not just talking about loose lip prayers. And I'm not talking about praying the devil away prayers. I'm talking about praying a real prayer. I'm not talking about now I lay me down to sleep prayer. I'm talking about Holy Ghost, Pentecostal, sanctified, true and tried prayer. Prayer that causes beads like sweats of blood to fall down from your brow. World-changing prayer. Soul-saving prayer. Demon-defeating prayer. Shackle-breaking prayer. Thank you, I'm talking about life-changing prayer. Ordered steps were only half of David's requests. David went on, don't let me be overcome by evil. My sisters and my brothers, please don't miss this message here. David knew his limitation. He said, Lord, don't let me. He knew that he was limited in overcoming evil all by himself. Oh, help me, Holy Ghost, this morning. I'm talking about ambiguous evil, self-absorbed evil, ungrateful evil, and jealous evil. Unrighteousness, lying, stealing, and cheating evil. I'm going to get you before you get me evil. David knew his limitations. David knew that he was capable of, if he walked only in his own power and might. Don't let me, Lord. David shows us that he was wise enough to know that the only power that is great enough, the only one who is strong enough, the only army that is big enough to hold back that manipulating, undercutting, slick and slimy, tripling and trifling evil one is God. David said, Lord, call upon your angels and don't let me. Do you really know what your limitations are today? Are you seeking God, asking him, Lord, don't let me? Let me do a little roll calling for some people who can testify of their powers and limitations. Brother Moses, he stuttered. And Miriam, she was a gossiper. Jacob lied. Rachel stole. Noah got drunk and naked. David had many affairs. Hosea, he married a prostitute. Abraham and Sarah both were old, yet God gave them a baby in their old age. Jeremiah was young, but he became a king at the age of 8. Elijah was burnt out. Thomas doubted. Peter was quick-tempered. Martha was a worrywart. And John the Baptist was weird. Yet God used them as all in a very special way. They were alienated by their circumstances and they were estranged by mishap. But even in as much as they had limitation, God ordered their steps. Regardless of what anybody say or think about you, God does the calling and God uses whomever God chooses, not who you think he should choose. God will order the steps of those of us who have limitations. All we have to do is ask in Holy Ghost power prayer, Lord, don't let me. Watch this. Observe this. David's prayer in the Old Testament became Peter's prayer in the New Testament. Order for David in the Old Testament meant to keep, but order for Peter meant call Jesus. Hallelujah. You got to call Jesus. A call for Jesus is a guarantee that you will be kept. If Jesus calls you, then Jesus will keep you. He will keep you by the power of his Father, by God. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 14, verses 22 through 33, quick-lipped Peter pleads with Jesus to call for him out of the boat. Some of us are like Peter. We have been quick to say, Lord, call me. Lord, use me in your service. Lord, I'm willing to run all had one of those kinds of experience with the disciples on the boat. Some of us today are where we are because we can't stand it in here any longer. Relationship. I can hear Peter saying, I just couldn't stand in that boat any longer. Do you know who's in this boat with us? He says, I saw Jesus on the water. And I looked around. When I looked around, I then saw doubting Thomas, who was in the boat with me. Doubting everything that both Jesus and we did. And then there was jealous James. Jealous for what, I ask you? I saw the meticulous Matthew and Judas, and I looked at myself, who was quick-tempered. And I knew I could not stay in the boat that I was in with the boat that I was with no longer. So I come to tell you that there are some folks in our boat we need to get away from. You know the ones I'm talking about? Smiling in your face, lying backbiting folk, our longing for the right relationship with God should cause us to call for Jesus. I can't stand it in this boat any longer, Lord. Get me out of here. There's some jealous folk in our boat, envious folk in our boat, wrapped up, tied up, tangled up folk in the boat called church. And like Peter, we've got to decide that we're going to get out of the boat with all of its cliques and its clans. I hear Peter saying, think about it. I know I'd rather follow Jesus. I don't care where Jesus is, I'll follow Jesus. If Jesus is flying, some of us will say, let me fly. Jesus is a far better traveling companion than anyone we know. Peter begins to sense that I want to be where you are, kind of feeling, coming all over him all over again. When Peter stepped out of the water, he should not have been worried. He should have known that his steps were ordered by the Lord. And so, my sisters and my brothers, I ask you today, why are you worried? Don't you know that if you have been called by the Lord has already ordered your steps? We ought to go right away when he calls because we're already walking in ordered steps. I learned that the Lord ordered my steps a long time ago at the age of 8. It wasn't just when I answered the call into this ministry some 27 years ago. No, my Bible tells me that the Lord ordered my steps before he placed me into the bowels of my mother's womb. The Lord ordered my steps when I came into this world. And as my parents and my grandparents and my godparents stood in the presence of God and waited, the waiting congregation at Payne Memorial African Methodist Episcopal Church, dedicating my life to the Lord, my steps were officially ordered by God. Peter should have known what God had told Jeremiah, that he was known before he was placed in his mother's womb. Why should Peter care, somebody might ask me? Simply because Jesus had already told him that we would be central in the building of his church. His people called church. Jesus called Peter from the shallow existence of the boat to a new life in the deep. And that's what Jesus is calling each of us to do today. When we talk about vital ministries are found out in the deep. They're not found here in the church building. We have to go outside of the church. Jesus is calling us from the shadow of existence in the boat of a new life in the deep. Visualize with me, if you will, for a moment. Can't you see Peter with his foot on the edge of the boat. He's thinking, I see Jesus out there and on the water, and he turns back and he looks in the boat and he said, I see y'all too. He notices that there's no one else with his or her foot at the edge of the boat. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, God, that there is an indecision that makes us check ourselves. I see Peter. He's thinking, God delivered Daniel from the lion's den, and Jonah from the belly of a great fish. Then there was Shadrach, Meshach, and that bad Negro called Abednego. He saved them from the fiery furnace. So why wouldn't you believe that God delivered me? And after thinking for a moment, Peter says, Jesus, order me to come to you on the water. Jesus immediately says to him, come. Jesus doesn't have to think about it like you and I would. After all, Jesus doesn't have to call a church conference to make a decision. He doesn't need the council of bishops to convene at a general conference board meeting to make a change in the church law to say yes. Jesus is calling you and me to come out in the deep if you're willing to go. And there's nothing but us stopping us from answering God's call. Don't let those in your boat stop you from coming to Jesus' call. Don't let your companion stop you from coming. I've heard over the many years that the word come is one of Jesus' favorite words. Come unto me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Whosoever will, let him come after me. Let him deny himself, take up his cross and follow me. Suffer the little children to come unto me and forbid them not, for such is the kingdom of heaven. Truly, Peter indeed had ordered steps. But Peter also, like some of us, had failing faith. Having failing faith is like having cement blocks tied to your feet, or 500 pounds of weight strapped around your shoulders and your waist. Failing faith will take you down when you're trying to go up. You can't walk on water with failing faith. Failing faith will steal your attention from Jesus and focus it on the circumstances that are around you. Peter was out on the water. Scripture said too far to turn back. Some of us are like Peter. We have already stepped away from the boat. We're too far out here now, and we can't go back. We've come too far to turn around, and too far to change our minds, too far to go back to what we used to do. We're out here now, and we have to make up our minds about which way we're going to go. We're out here now, and that's just when the wind began to blow, making us think that we're in a whirlwind about to blow down and be blown out, and we're going to drown. Look at Peter now. He's out there on that water. He hears the wind pick up. The sound is getting louder and louder. The wind's like voices saying, look at you, Peter. Man, you can't accomplish that. Peter, man, you're all out there by yourself. You're not going to be able to get any help out there. Oh, yeah. You're in trouble now, Peter. Those voices will come to us when we're trying to get out of the boat. Voices that say, you're a nobody. Voices that say, you're all alone by yourself. Anyway, who do you think you are? Look at you. Anyway, who even called you to preach or teach? I know what Peter must have felt like out there on that water. Over time, I've come to vote a some folk have come to me, I should say, with their winds. Discouraging winds. Winds of despair. Winds of hopelessness. Winds of impossibilities. Winds, contrary winds. Doubtful winds. Lying winds. Meddling winds. Two-faced winds. Stab you in the back winds. Smiling faces in your face and trying to take your place winds. I come to tell you this morning that we can even walk in the deep while we're paying attention to those winds. We can't. It's contrary to what the Lord is calling us to do. Jesus says to each of us, I have ordered your steps, and I, the Lord, will keep your feet. I will hold you, and I will still the waters. I will come quiet the winds. I, the Lord Jesus, will fight your battles. I will keep you from falling. Jesus says all you have to do today is come to him. As I come to a close, I'm reminded of the scars that Jesus endured from judgment hall to judgment hall. All night long for you and for me. The word says they nailed him 3 times. One for the Father, one for the Son, and one for the Holy Ghost. Then they pierced him in his side. Jesus said, these scars are for you. And they're for you because my Father loved you so much that I had to go your bound. These scars say that my Father loved you so much. And because of you, he would not let me come down from the cross just to save me. My Father wouldn't lose you to that demon called the devil. These scars that I have in my hand are scars of love for you. I come to tell you this morning, don't focus on the scars that you have in this life. Look beyond all of your faults and see the scars of love that Jesus went through for you. In John 19:11, Pilate had the audacity to ask Jesus a question. He said to him, don't you know, Jesus, that I have the power to crucify you, and I also have the power to release you? And Jesus told Pilate, you don't have no power against me, hallelujah, unless it is given to you from above. My brothers and my sisters, remember who has the power in your ordered steps. If God called you, or if God is calling you, God will hold you in his hands. God will not turn you loose. Show your scars of love that proves that God has laid his hand on you, that God will never turn you loose. I come to tell you this morning that I'm a living witness, that God will not lose you to the deep. If you have ordered steps, so walk in your ordered steps. Walk through the winds and walk through the storms and walk through the doubts and walk through discouragement. Walk on through opposition. Do what God has called you to do. And remember that you have ordered steps and not failing faith. I thank God this morning that he has brought me from a mighty long way. And I didn't get here by myself. I'm not going to be able to stay here by myself. If it were not for the Lord on my side, I don't know just where I would be. You need to get it in your heart and in your mind. It's not what you can do for yourself. It's what God and only God can do for you. It took me a while, even though I was in church all my life, to really learn the positivity of serving a true and a living God. It took me a while to realize that I needed to have communion with God. God loves you just like human beings love you, but God loves you more. because he'll go further than any man or any woman will go for any human being. I come to tell you today that if you don't have Christ in your life, you need to give up whatever it is you're doing and surrender and say to him, Lord, I surrender unto you. All to thee I give. Order my steps, Lord, that I may be able to do what you have me to do. And so as I end this sermon, I say to you once again, order my steps in your word. Say